Cleaning up or removing stray hairs in portraits is a really common need. And because of that, in the next two movies, I want to show you two more techniques for dealing with stray hairs. In those movies, we'll be working with this portrait that I captured of Aisha Brissell in front of this corrugated tin wall. Now, Aisha is an acclaimed designer and author, and if we zoom in on her portrait, what we can see here is she not only has some stray hairs, but her hair is a little bit frizzy around the edges. Now, the complexity of this is that she's standing in front of this complicated background. How in the world are we going to deal with that? Now, we could try to use the spot healing brush and the clone stamp tool, but it would take forever. If we want to work more quickly, and if we need to work on a large area, what you can do is this. You can zoom out a little bit and analyze the image and ask yourself, is there anywhere where I have a good part of the background? Like above the subject, this background up here is perfect. Then use one of your selection tools, a lasso tool, or maybe a marquee tool, and just click and drag over the good area of the background. Once you have good background, the next step is to copy that to a new layer. Press Command-J on a Mac or Control-J on Windows. And we'll just name this Cover Up because we're going to use this to cover up all of those stray hairs. Now, first this will look a little strange because what we'll do next is free transform this to cover up everything. Then we'll just mask it into a specific area. So the next step is to go to Free Transform, Edit, and Free Transform. Then to take this background, and I'm free transforming it here to cover up everything. And this is where I said it looks a little strange. But you can see we have perfect, seamless background. It looks awesome. The next step is to create a layer mask by clicking on the Add Layer Mask icon. Then over here in the Properties panel to click Invert, or use the shortcut to do the same thing, which is Command-I on a Mac, Control-I on Windows, and that will invert your mask. The reason why we want to invert the mask is because we only want this new background in certain areas. I'll grab my brush tool, paint with white. I can determine my brush size. Probably right around there will work. And then a brush hardness of 0. We will be changing our brush size as we go, but let me zoom in really close. And I'll actually tap the left bracket key. It looks like my brush is a little bit too big, but what I can do here is I can work so quickly. I'm just painting with white. And what I'm doing is I'm painting that background that we have covering up all of the stray hairs. Now, can you imagine how much time this would take me if I were trying to do this with the clone stamp tool? And the great thing about this is masking is one of those techniques that once you've learned how to work with masking, you can work really quickly. And what I mean by that is you can see I've cleaned up the top of the hair over there. Over on this area, I'm just going to get out some of the bigger issues, tap the left bracket key to make a smaller brush, and even press it again to get even smaller. And I can just work really, really quickly. And the great thing about this as well is not only do we have really nice results, and we're able to just crank through this at an amazing speed. I mean, I can't imagine how much more time this would take. But if we make any kind of a mistake, so let's say you're working on an edge and all of a sudden, oops, you divot into the image, we'll just press the X key. That will flip your foreground and background colors and then paint it, and then press the X key again and then continue on. And so with this technique, what we can do is we can get in really close. We can take some more chances as far as our speed. We don't have to be super careful about getting everything perfect because, oops, if we make a mistake, we just hit the X key and then we paint along that edge, and we can continually refine these edges at any point as needed. And you can see here with all of this work, we can also get really small. We could get a small little brush, do a little more detail work if we wanted to. We could change the opacity of the brush if we wanted to have this fade in a little bit. So we could do that there as well. But if you look at the results with what we've done, we haven't finished the whole image, but you can see that is ridiculous how quickly we were able to do that and the level of the results that we were able to achieve. And the way that we were able to do this is we used some of the background and then just masked it into specific areas, which was then covering up all of those stray hairs. This works in situations where you have studio backdrops, or in my case, it was just an outdoor portrait in front of this corrugated tin building in Los Angeles. Whatever it is, you can use this technique. And then over here, I'm just going to finish this up really quickly. I also want to highlight that if you were doing this and it was a really important portrait, of course you could slow down. and you could slow down and really get into all those edges and details and do some really nice work on that and work on cleaning up all of this little stuff here. Need to do a little bit more work over here in this area. I need to zoom in to really clean that up. But I think for at least the demo, you can see how this technique will help you out. Here it is, our before. Let's zoom in even further. There's the before right there. And then now the after. And to reiterate this one, it is all about just seeing if you have some background that's good, that's usable, selecting that either using a lasso tool or a marquee tool, copying that to a new layer. Then once it's on a new layer, adding a layer mask and painting it into specific areas so that you can then use that to cover up any of those stray hairs or problems.